Welcome back to the channel. Today we got this 2014 Dodge Journey and it's got a misfire concern. So client calls, and they're just, they're wanting me to replace all the spark plugs and all the coils, and I ask them why, and they're like, well, it's got a P0304 and the computer said that it needed all the spark plugs and all the coils. At that point, I knew instantly, okay, who read your codes? Who told you this? Because there's no computer on earth that's going to tell you you need spark plugs and coils. There's just not. Unless there's, something I'm unaware of. If there is, I need that tool instantly. But, so anyways, they're wanting their warranty company to pay for it, and I'm like, okay, if you want me to work on this car, I need to do a proper diagnostic. And so, sure enough, they brought me the vehicle. I went to go crank it over, and I could hear that, whoa, 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 that uneven cadence. So, I knew we had some more issues, something more serious going on. I got the U-scope out, and, sure enough, there was it looked like at least one dead cylinder. Well, so, at this point, you don't need coils. This is a mechanical issue. And, we've got to look into it further. So that's basically where we're at. I got this new camera and I was filming with it. I filmed this big, long video. It's got a tripod. It was super easy, except for the footage sucks. It's a horrible camera. So here I am with my phone. I'm trying to give you a rundown of everything that's gone down so far. So firing order on this car is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now the front bank, that's bank 2. We got 2, 4, 6. Front of the engine 2, 4, 6, and then on the rear it's 1, 3, 5. So sorry, that glare is pretty bad right there. So anyways, where was I? Okay, yeah, so I've got my sync on number 2 because it is the only accessible coil. All these other coils they look incredibly difficult to get to. So, which is no big deal. I mean, I like to go on one just because it's easier for me, but this is not a big deal. So anyways, I got my sync channel on number 2. I got the amp clamp hooked up to the positive cable. Usually I like to go on the negative cable, but this is the most easily accessible, and so it just made sense for a quick test. I took out the fuel pump fuse, cranked it over, let it die, and then ran my RC test with the sync. Like I said, I did it with the U-scope before, but this way I can get a sync and a little bigger, better picture. So let me flip you around and show you what I got. Okay, so as you can see, there's the P0304. So, and then there's an airfill imbalance on that bank, which should be expected with a misfire. So, anyways, yep, let's dig deeper. I apologize for the glare. It's kind of bright in here, but so here's that RC with the sync, and I don't know why that primary ignition is so tiny. I mean, I could blow it up if I wanted to, but we don't really need to for the purposes of this test. We don't need to see that spark line. All right, so like I said, firing order is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. However, I got my sync on number 2. So what you're seeing here, that's the number 2 ignition coil, that yellow trace. There's the computer grounding it, and then the spark. So, and then there again. So this is a full 720 degrees revolution of the engine. And all right, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then back to 1. This is a V6 engine. All right, so number 2 looks good. Number 3 looks good. And then number 4. We got low compression on number 4. There's 5, 6, and then we got low compression on number 1 as well. it was more apparent on some of these, this other, like right here, that's real bad. So that'd be 1, 2, no, it'd be 2, 3, 4, completely dead. There's no compression there. 5, 6, and then we got low compression on that cylinder as well. So this higher peak you're seeing, and then this peak here, you get this. So we got a dead miss on number 4, you know, 2, 3, 4. So whenever the engine, you know, the starter's not working very hard, you know, to spin it past, you know, when that number 4 goes up on compression stroke, there's no compression, so it's real easy for it. There's no amperage draw. But that next cylinder in the firing order, you know, you're gonna see a spike because it's gotta work double time to get that engine moving, you know, to keep the momentum up. I mean, that's my best way to describe it. It's probably not a very good way, but that's why you see that high peak. And then this, it appears to be low compression on that cylinder as well. It might be a little low, and it's not a super clear picture, but this one right here, number 7, you know, I've taken this multiple times, and number 7 and number 4 are the culprits here. So another thing you're going to notice, you know, this, sometimes I can get some pretty clear RCs. I believe all this static here is going to indicate starter wear. So that's going to be the you know, the brushes inside the starter wearing out, I believe. You know, somebody out there watching this probably knows better than me, and they're going to correct me, but that's not even important. Who cares about the starter? We got no compression on number 4 and low compression on number 7. Now, I'm gonna get some cursors up so you guys can see that a little bit clearer. The cursors are up, and it kind of just makes it a little more clear for me, at least. So, you know, we got number 2, 3, 4 is dead, and that's why you see that it's a higher peak. And then we got 6, and then look at 7 down there. That's got low compression as well. So I was gonna go in cylinder. Now that I think about it, those cylinders are under the intake on both banks, all of them. So that's just not possible. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get that intake pulse sensor out, and let's just see if we can dive a little deeper. All right, so I got my pulse sensor hooked up right there. So it's right behind the throttle body, and this is kind of a weird intake. Usually you want to be, like, you know, centered in between the cylinders. So, well, actually I guess that's perfect. So this, you know, it comes back into this, the manifold here, and I guess it's just a resonator box back here, because it looks like just comes back here, and then all the cylinders get fed through here. So you want to be centralized, and that's what I'm trying to say. And then I still got my sync on number 2, but I'm going to use the 10-to-1 primary this time, just so I can get kind of a bigger picture. For some reason, my scaling on that scope is just kind of being funky right now, and I don't have time to mess with it. So hopefully this fixes that issue. I just got the RC capture on there with the intake pole, just so I could look at a couple things. For some reason, or for a second there, I thought that it might be out of time, but it's not. You can see, you know, the spark, you know, where these red traces are, that's where the spark should be. Pretty dang close. I mean, I gotta adjust it a little bit. Let's see here. And it'd be nice to have a bigger trace on that primary there, but all right. So you can see the peaks line up pretty damn on the money. So I'm not concerned about a timing issue. I wanted to get this real quick so I could just verify it. All right, so I'm gonna get that piston chart back up and kind of go over what we found. Okay, so I went ahead and pulled up that piston chart. I also labeled the intake strokes just to make it a little easier to look at and correlate what's going on, you know, between the cylinders, because it does matter in this case. Like we discussed, that yellow trace, that's the sink on number 2. This is 720 degrees, one 4-stroke engine cycle between the two. And this blue trace is all of our cylinders relative compression. So you see there's 2, 3, 4, we got low, 5, 6, another low one. Well, yeah, that'd be 1, and then back to 2. That's why I always sync on number 1, because it just, I don't know, the way my mind works, it just confuses me a little bit. But anyways, so, and then we got our intake poles on our green trace. And, you know, what you're gonna notice here is the relationship between number 4 and number 1. So you can see, like, number 1, that is where number 1's intake pull starts. So you can see that weak pull there. Same thing with number 4. That's where number 4's intake pull starts, and you can see that weak pull. You can see how it doesn't go all the way, you know, down like these ones here. And I would get some cursors on there, but it'll mess up this capture here, because I think it'll get rid of the piston chart if I do that. I'm not 100% certain. Now, when I took this capture, or when I took my first RC test on this vehicle, I was fairly certain we were dealing with, you know, like catastrophic engine failure, just the way it felt. And the misfire was just real bad. So, you know, I was thinking it was going to be like a ring sealing issue or something of that nature. But after looking at this chart and this intake pull, I'm now thinking that we've got a valve train issue, like worn cam lobes or rocker arm failure. I know these 3.6 engines are pretty common for that. Rocker arm failure is pretty big on the list. You know, I got my stethoscope out and I was listening to both those cylinders, and actually I was kind of surprised to hear most of the noise was coming from cylinder number 1. And I just say that because, you know, the only DTC popping up is P0304 for the cylinder 4 misfire. So this is why it's so important to test these things, because until you do, you just don't know. I mean, yeah, I could have just said, hey, it needs an engine, which, you know, I did. I told him, hey, you've got low compression in cylinder number 4, and it looks like maybe another one. This is before I got the sync on there, and, you know, I got it all, you know, on the bigger scope, and I could see it better and kind of analyze it more. But, you know, like I was saying, that, you know, that's why these tests are important, you know, to verify. And that's exactly what I told him. You know, it could be, you know, something that's repairable, that you don't need a long block for. And it is. This is obviously a valve train issue. Let me just explain a little bit about how this piston chart works. So, just take this out of the equation. Take this green trace away. Just imagine it's not there. Let me see if I can move it out of the way. I'll at least kind of get it out of the way. Okay, so you got our RC test here on the bottom. Now, everything, it's labeled, so you can see the colors. You know, they're all labeled. Intake, compression, expansion, or power stroke, and exhaust. So this is our number 4, the original culprit, which actually does have the lowest compression. Okay, so you go over here to the piston chart, number 4, and this color, that's compression. So you can see it's going up, it starts going up on its compression stroke, right about there. squeezing, squeezing, and it's escaping. Same thing on this number 6. I mean, number 1. See, compression starts, the stroke starts, and it's squeezing, 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 and then there's nothing to compress, or very little comparatively to the other cylinders, because it's escaping somewhere. Okay, so where's it escaping to? That's the question. I think to fully understand that, you need to understand what a companion cylinder is, and I'm not going to go into great detail about that right now, but I think you'll get the point. When one cylinder is going down on its intake stroke, it's sucking, 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 the other one is going down on its power stroke. Bang! You know, there's compression, spark, bang, it goes down. So you can see here, let's see here, okay, so number 4, it's going, it starts, let's see here, number 4 starts right here on its intake stroke. It's going down, see number 4, intake, it's going down, sucking, sucking. Now, what's number 1 doing? Bang, it's going down. They're both going down, is my point. One is sucking and one is exploding. That could have sounded really bad. I had to think about that for a second. Anyways. Okay. So, you know, once you understand that, you know, you start to understand the 4 strokes of an engine cycle: the intake, the compression, expansion, and exhaust. They're all working in sync to keep that engine balanced and, you know, running efficiently. And when it's not, the vehicle shakes. You know, it's spinning really fast. And when one cylinder's not operating as it should, you get the misfire. You get that shake, you get, you know, vibration, shake, whatever you want to call it, depends on how bad it was. You know, on this vehicle, it's really bad. I mean, it's really, I told the customer not to drive it. It doesn't feel great. And the same goes for the other 2 strokes. So so you see here, number 1, it's on its compression stroke. Well, let's just say it is. By the way, I should have explained that better. You know, this is for cylinder 1. This is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you follow that along. This is the 4 strokes. So let's just say, let's start on 4. It's ending its intake stroke, its compression stroke starting, its expansion stroke is starting, or its power stroke, and then its exhaust stroke, and it starts all over again. So with that being said, number 1 here, it's going up on its compression stroke now. If we're right here, compressing, compressing, what's number 4 doing? Exhaust. The complete opposite. So you can see how they relate. So what's happening here is something's diluting that intake pull for both those cylinders. Now, I believe it's got some bad rocker arms or lifters maybe. It's hard to say without pulling that valve cover and inspecting it further, which I think is going to be the next step for this vehicle. But you can see here, number 1's intake starts right when number 4, bang, it's exploding. So where does all that energy go? Well, if number 4's intake valve is sticking open, it's going to go back into the intake pull. So when number 1 is trying to inhale air it's sucking as hard as it can, you know, trying to fill that cylinder so that it can compress the air. It can't do that because there's compression being introduced back into the manifold, which is diluting the pool, and vice versa between those cylinders. So I could sit here and analyze this a little bit more, which I will do off camera, but basically what we can take from this video is we got valve train issues, which is a good thing. It doesn't need an engine. You know, maybe, you know, the very worst, it needs some heads. Or, you know, we could have a worn cam lobe. You know, there's just a lot of possibilities. And so I think this is going to be kind of one of those multi-step diagnostic processes. You know, first step, I verified that it did not need spark plugs and coils. So that's good. You know, save the customer that expense. You know, don't let don't let AutoZone diagnose something like this. They're not even supposed to in this state. They're by law, they are not allowed to clear codes. They are not allowed to tell you what's wrong with their car. They're only allowed to tell you what the code is. And what they do from there is up to them. But so that was the first step. Second step, you know, RC test. You know, we found out that we got low compression in a couple cylinders. Now we got to figure out what's going on. So, you know, then you do the intake pull, the piston chart, all that. So with that data, we can conclude that this is a valve train issue. This is not, you know, a ring sealing issue or, you know, something of that nature. This is something affecting two cylinders, two companion cylinders at once, which is creating low compression in this rough idle and misfire condition. You know, it almost looks like it's got worn lifters, or, you know, that noise that I was hearing in that rear cam, it could have some wiped out cam lobes. So, you know, that'll be the next step, is taking that intake off, pulling those valve covers, and inspecting to see, you know, what we can see, because, you know, that's just the next step. And hopefully we don't got some catastrophic damage in there. You know, if that lifter is completely wiped out and there's metal running all through the system, you know, I'm probably going to drain the oil as well and inspect that filter, you know, check for any type of debris, metal shavings, glitter. You just be thorough, you know. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.